Picking it up though. By the way, everybody saw the document I sent. I don't think we're going to get to the. We won't get to the document today, but please save it. Very important document. I assumed that both the Mordechai, even though in the big Gemaras you have a Mordechai, but it's small print and it's hard to find in the Pnei Yehoshua for sure. It's in a different book. So I sent you a Mordechai, which is a very, very important Mordechai lahalacha. Okay, especially the very last piece in the Mordechai is brought down by all the poskim, a revolutionary idea, which makes a lot of sense. But we'll only get to that, I'm sure not. We won't get to that till next time. Now let's just plan out for next week. So next week, Sunday is okay. Sunday night is already, Monday is already Tainus Esther, and next Wednesday will not work because it's Purim for you and in the day, and it's Purim for me in the night. So next Wednesday there will not be a Chabura. And then the following Sunday, already we're going to be at America's going to be 6 hours instead of 7, because the Sunday after Purim, America goes on daylight savings time. So let's keep that in mind. That a week from Sunday, the times are going to shift. Okay, for the 3 weeks till we catch up with you. I should also alert. Wait, after Purim, let me just think for a second. The Sunday after Purim, there will be a Chabura. But the Wednesday and Sunday after that, there won't, because I'm going to be traveling. I'll be in America. So we're going to have to see where we get up to after Purim and then see how we reconnect. Okay, so I think everybody here who's going to be here, let us pick it up. Chaf Amud Beis. We had the first scenario. We had the Tanana Makif. Let's just remind ourselves the Makif, because we need to go to the second scenario in that Gemara. All right, it's a few lines from the top. Tanana Makif Chavero. We'll do it quickly because we did it last time. Amakif Chavero Misholosh Ruchosa Vigadash Rishon Shnei Shlishis Ein Mechayven Oso. Again, look at the picture, and the picture is pretty obvious that there's no reason for Shimon to have to pay anything for the walls that Ruvain built. The assumption here is Ruvain built all the walls. Ruvain built the outside walls and he built the inner walls. And Shimon could say, "You built it; I don't have to pay for it." Haravius Mechayven Oso. But if Ruvain would have built a fourth wall, meaning the bottom wall, he would have also built that on Shimon's property. So then the diuk is Raviz Mechayven also Shma Mina Zenen Vizel Lo Chaser Chayiv, because Ruvain built that fourth wall. Says Rashi. Let's just see the Rashi. And let's see the Rashi of Godar. No, got to go all the way up. Misholosh Ruchosa. The Rashi Misholosh Ruchosa. Haylo Ruvain Sholosh Sodas Etzel Sodas Shimon Misholosh Ruchosav. The Godar Ruvain es Harishon Samach L'Sodas Shniga Levad Mechitzos Achitzoni Shahaylu Beino L'Shar Habikos. Meaning Ruvain certainly had walls around the outside of his fields to protect him from the outside, but he also built walls to cordon off Shimon's field. So Ein Mechayven also. Ein Mechayven is Shimon. Klum. Shimon has no benefit from those walls because his field is wide open to Rishus Harabim or to the other fields. Ha b'diuk haravius im hayalo leruven daled sados me'arba ruchos shel Shimon v'godron then mechayven es Shimon latet et chelko b'mechitzos hapnimios shebeino leruven. It's not clear whether Ruvain also built a fourth wall between him and Shimon. He probably did, but clearly if Ruvain has 4 fields and he's completely surrounded, he's completely protected everybody from the outside, Shimon certainly has to pay for the inner walls and maybe even the fourth wall if Ruvain built it. So what do you see? Zenen Shimon v'zela chaser Ruvain. Why? Yesh lo ligdor sadeh. He's got to build it anyway, and you see that he already built it. So I see that Shimon is off. Shimon, right? Zenen Shimon zela chaser, and l'chayra, what it says is that he has to pay, because when Ruvain does all 4 walls, Shimon's going to have to pay. So you see Zenen v'zelo chaser chayiv, and the answer is no. Ad garamus lihat kefa yasera the ilav sadeu shel Shimon. I'm in Rashi. Bein sados of avisagi le b'mechitzos chitzonios havu kol sados of gedurim hilka chaser hu b'shvilo, is because you cause me to have to build more, and therefore if you're protected you have to pay, and it's a Zenen v'ze chaser. Yeah, we did that last time. Now we go to the second case, or the second opinion. I'm sorry, not the second case, second opinion. Here's the new stuff. Toshma. Amar Rabbi Yossi, im amad nikaf v'godar es haravis. So what happened? Look at the picture, and the assumption is, well, Rashi will tell you the assumption. Im Omad Nikaf v'Gadar es Haraviis, meaning exactly in that picture, and Shimon now built a fourth wall. So Reuven built 3 walls to protect him from Shimon's fields, exactly as the picture, and now so Shimon has no benefit from those 3 walls, and then comes along Shimon, and Shimon fills in that 4th wall. That's Gadar es that is Omad Nikaf. The Gadar Revius. Why are we going to make him pay everything, all 4 walls? Because Gali Adaite, the Nichale Be'akefo Shel Reuven. He just demonstrated that he likes the idea that there are walls between him and Reuven. When it was open, he's not getting any benefit. But the minute he built that 4th wall at the bottom, he has shown benefit from all 4 walls. And therefore, we're going to make him pay for remember, he built the 4th wall, but we're going to now make him pay for the 50% of the other 3 walls. So that is the din, that if Shimon built the 4th wall, we're going to make him pay for the other 3 walls. Diuk, ha-makif, what happens if Reuven himself built that 4th wall? Okay, says Rashi, ha-makif im kona makif od sada revis, eitzel Shimon, the godra pater Shimon. We're going to now add another field to Reuven, and because of that extra field, he now builds a 4th wall for Shimon. Diuk, he's going to be pater if the makif does it. So that's a raya that zenen of zelo chaser pater. Everybody follow now how and we have a machlokas here basically between the Tanakh and Reb Shimon. The real machlokas is only going to be when the makif when about the megalgul and avesakol. But let's not get too sidetracked on that, because that's going to also end up a machlokas Rashi Tosfos. All right, but we have very clearly a diuk is that if there would be a 4th wall, according to Reb Shimon, if the only time I'm going to make Shimon pay for all the walls, the other 3 walls, is if he built the 4th wall. But if Reuven built the 4th wall, according to Reb Shimon, then we're not going to make Shimon pay anything. That proves zenen of zelo chaser pater. So answers the Gemara, no. That really, the reason he doesn't have to pay for the 3 walls that were built out of stone is shiny hasam da amar le ledidi sagili benetira barzuza. Says Rashi, what kind of a taina is that? Ledidi sagili benetira barzuza lo haye cholas biyadi ligdor gader shalavonim. I never would have spent money on a stone wall. The sagili begader kotzim barzuza lahavdil ben yuvenecha, and therefore the fact that Reuven built a stone wall between him and Shimon, Shimon doesn't have to pay for that. He has to pay a couple of dollars just because there's some protection. But therefore, that Rabbi Shimon would say that in a world, again, we're all we're doing is we're trying to keep it neutral. We're trying to keep it ambiguous. We're trying to make it work whether you hold zen evizel chaser pater or zen evizel chaser chayiv. There is a way to interpret it that zen evizel chaser would be normally chayiv, but here he has no benefit. He has he can't make him pay for more than the brush. Okay. Okay, next case. That we'll see. We may have to come back to that because there are going to be some consequences. But let's see the next case.
Well, wait, Rabbi Karlinsky, can I just ask on this? So again, here we're talking about that hana means what you would have to spend. In other words, even though a stone wall, that 4th wall, it's a stone wall, is going to provide better protection than just bushes and brambles. But since that's all that Shimon would have installed,
he can make that taina. He can claim, I never would have spent so much money, and therefore my hana'ah is very minimal.
Right. Well, I mean, and that's what we're saying here.
Yes.
That's why we're saying that he's essentially basically he's lo man.
But we're not going to make him pay for what we're not going to do is we're not going to make him pay for those 3 stone walls because he's now having benefit from all 4 stone walls.
Right.
And we're not going to make him pay for those stone walls.
Right, because he wouldn't have put in a stone wall himself in the 4th wall.
He could claim, it's a claim to get him off the hook to say, my hana is very, very limited, very little. And therefore, in a world of, because we're trying to make this work in a world of zenen v'zelo chaser chayiv, But okay, Reuven is clearly a lo chaser because he's building it for himself. However, Shimon is being nene. So we got to figure out how much is Shimon being nene, and what we're saying is Shimon's hana is minimal, and therefore that's why he's pater. But if he would have real hana in a real zen nene, v'zelo chaser, like he saved himself a hotel bill, he saved himself an Airbnb bill that he normally would have used, then he would be chayiv.
Right.
Again, we're not taking sides. We're trying to show that it's ambiguous, that there's no proof in either direction. Okay, next. Habayit ve'aliyah shel shnayim. So again, this was very common in those days. I'm not sure exactly how it works today. Land rights, air rights. Let's see Rashi. Rashi habayit ve'aliyah. Here's the scenario. Bayit shel zeh ve'aliyah shel gaba havi shel acher. So there's a house, and Reuven owns the bottom floor, and Shimon owns the top floor. Okay? And what happened? And then naflu. The whole thing collapsed. Okay? So now, Amar Balabayit, Amar Balaliyah Labalabayit, you realize that the Balaliyah is stuck until the Balabayit builds the first floor. Because the only rights the Balaliyah has is the second floor. And there ain't no first floor to make a second floor. So therefore, the Balaliyah goes to the Balabayit and said, build, so that I can also build. Amar Balaliyah Labalabayit, leave notes. Build the bottom so I can build the top. V'hu eino rotze. And the Balabayit, the bottom floor guy says, you know what? I have no money. I don't need it. I'm not going to build. Wow. So what do we do? Says the Gemara, says the Brisa, Hare Bala Aliyah bone bayit. So the Baal Ha'aliyah can build the bottom, and he can live there. Ad sheyitin lo yitzi Yosef. So again, this is a case of hanichnas. I'm sorry, yored letoch sarach chaveiro, and he built. So let's call Reuven the bottom guy, Shimon the top guy. So Shimon went in and he built the bottom for Reuven. Okay, now in theory, Reuven should have to pay him for the expenses. Okay, he's pays him for the expenses because he had expenses. And I built your house for you. You got to compensate me with the expenses. But of course, Reuven doesn't want to, because if Reuven wanted to pay the expenses, he would have built it himself. So we've got a case where the house fell down. Reuven said, I'm not building. Shimon said, fine, I'll build. But of course, you can't move in until you give me my expenses. All right, so far so good. Shimon, after he built, is allowed to prevent Reuven from moving in until he gets his expenses. But Shimon needs a place to live. So Shimon moves in, because there's a house, I built it. Shimon moves in, and he's allowed to live there until Reuven gives him the expenses. And then Reuven reclaims, basically, Reuven gets the rights to the house that Shimon built, because Shimon built the house on Reuven's property. Shimon's entitled to expenses. But once he gets those expenses from Reuven, Reuven owns it. Where's the problem? Shimon was living there till Reuven gave him expenses. So does Shimon have to pay Reuven rent, retroactive rent? He was living in Reuven's house. The house belongs to Reuven, but Reuven can't live there. Reuven can't live there because he didn't give him the expenses. So did Shimon have hana?
Of course. Shimon had an I live there.
Shimon would, if he wouldn't have had that house, he would have to go rent another house. So Shimon clearly had hana. Did Reuven have any loss?
No.
No.
Reuven had no loss because he couldn't live there anyway until he paid the expenses. So it's a perfect case of Shimon having hana and Reuven having no cost. Okay, and what does it say? What does Shimon have to give? What does Reuven have to give Shimon? Says the Gemara, Yoshev bo ad sheyiten lo yitziosov. Yitziosov hu demechayev le balabayit. Hoscharo lo. What does it mean, hoscharo lo, says Rashi? Yitziosov, go to the Rashi Yitziosov. Masha hotzi al habayit. Alma, midiyav le kol Yitziosov. Ve'eno menakelo schar masha omad babayit. he gives him. It says he has to give all the expenses. Well, I would have thought he gives all the expenses minus the benefit that Shimon had, because Shimon saved rent by living in Reuven's house. So why can't Shimon deduct? Why can't Reuven deduct rent from the time that Shimon lived there? And it says no. He has to give all the expenses, no deductions. Alma zenene shayelo liskor acheret. So Shimon certainly was nene. V'zeh lo chaser. De belav achilo boy ihu limivanye. He never wanted to build the house, all right, and he didn't lose anything. Potter hanene. Reuven is potter. Shimon is potter. So I see clearly from this the fact that all Reuven has to give is the expenses. I'm sorry, the opposite. The fact that Reuven has to give full expenses and he cannot deduct any money for rent, i.e. the hana'ah that Shimon had while he lived there for 6 months till Reuven got together the money for the expenses. Ze nene, Shimon was nene. Zelo chaser, it didn't cost Reuven anything because he wasn't going to be able to do anything anyway. And I see that ze nene is zelo chaser potter. Does that, again, sound good?
It sounds good. It sounds good, but what about Ribbis?
What's the question of Ribbis?
Because
No, I'm sorry. I shouldn't have answered. I shouldn't have said that. Let's leave that aside. It's not.
Okay.
Josh Eisenberg will explain to you why it's not. Okay? So he studied this. It's not. Okay? But the question here is, I see that Zen of Zelo Chaser doesn't have to pay because he lived in the house. He had a it didn't cost Shimon anything. Okay? Didn't cost Shimon anything. And it was the house of Kaimela Agra or Lo Kaimela Agra. The house was clearly a Lo Kaimela Agra because Reuven would never have been able to rent it. And yet Shimon had perfect no. So I see Zen Nene. The Zen Lo Chaser is Potter. Says the Gemara, no proof. Why no proof? I lost my place. Shiny Hassam debata le aliyah mishtabed. Says Rashi. Bayit la'aliyah mishtabed. She'al habayit lizbol ha'aliyah. Meaning the bottom guy owes the top guy. The bottom guy owes the top guy the rights to build on top of his house. Hilkach hadinim zeloderbo. They're a little tricky. In other words, really, Shimon should have been able to force Reuven to build the house because I have rights on top of your house. The fact that you're not doing what you're really supposed to do gives me the right to live in the house rent-free. But if it wouldn't have been such a structure, i.e., the rent-free, that the bottom is mishuba to the top, of course I would have had to pay rent. You know, it's an exception to Zenen of Zelo Chaser. It's the reason that I'm entitled to the Hana'ah that I got, even though it doesn't cost you anything. I'm entitled to the Hana'ah because you really owe me the bottom part. And it's your fault for not building the bottom part. I had a right to do that, and I need a house. And therefore, really what I'm doing, if you want to understand it virtually, is I'm living in my house, except it hasn't yet been built up, so I'm doing it on the bottom part. But I have living rights. And so to speak, I have living rights. And therefore I can do it without paying rent. But in a general Zen and of Zelo Chaser, I'd have to pay. You guys following the logic here? Yes? Okay. And now we have another opinion. Tashma, Rabbi Yehuda Omer, Af Zeh, Dar, B'chatzer Chavero Shalom Idaito, Tzorech Laha Lo Schar. In other words, Rabbi Yehuda's opinion is, he was a dar b'chatzer chavero, shalomi daito, and we have to pay rent. Meaning, Rabbi Shimon is arguing on the Tanakh. Rabbi Shimon holds that in this case, the guy has to pay rent. Why should he was nene? He was nene, he's got to pay rent.
You mean Rabbi Yehuda?
And Rabbi Yehuda is saying that the guy has to pay rent. And if the guy has to pay rent, then now we've got an opposite proof. We're proving from Rabbi Yehuda that Rabbi Yehuda holds Zen nene v'zelo chaser. What does Rabbi Yehuda hold?
Chayev.
Chayev. Rabbi Yehuda says, "I'm sorry, you got to pay. You got to pay."
So it's the same scenario with the house in the Aliyah.
It's a machlokas tanoim. What's the din? In other words, what we're really showing is that Rabbi Yehuda holds Zen Nana V'Zelo Chaser Chayiv, and it's not clear from the Tanakama what he holds.
No, but I'm just asking. This is the same scenario still with
yes, absolutely. It's a continuation of the brisa. It's a continuation of the brisa. Rabbi Yehuda when it says Toshma Rabbi Yehuda Omer, it's a continuation of the brisa. It's if I'll read you the whole brisa. Habayis ve'aliyah shel shnayim shenaflu. Amar balabayis lebalabayit. Amar balaliyah lebalabayis livnos v'u'ein rotzeh. Harei balaliyah bona bayis v'yosheva ad sheyitin lo yitziyosav. Rabbi Shimon Omer af zeh dar b'chatzer chaver shelo midaito and tzorich lalos lo schar. So I have a machlokas whether the guy who built the bottom has to pay rent while he's living there. Because at the end of the day, he's living in Reuven's house. And therefore, when Reuven pays the expenses, he can deduct rent. Machlokas Tanaim. It's machlokas Tanaim. Does he have to pay rent or he doesn't have to pay rent? Everybody following? Rabbi Yehuda's opinion proves that Rabbi Yehuda says he's got to pay rent. He's got to pay rent. He's a dar b'chatzer chaver shelo midaito. And therefore, you got to pay rent.
I have a little bit of a problem with understanding the definition in Rabbi Yehuda that the upper guy is dar b'chatzer shel chaver shelo midaito, because the lower guy, I forgot exactly who's who here now, the balabai, he was told and he knows that he has to really build that house so that the other guy can live on top of him. That's the given pre-existing scenario.
Yep.
So now that he says, sorry, I can't, or I don't want to, I don't know, whatever his reason is right now, I have a little bit of hard time understanding how now the Elyon is therefore defined by Rabbi Yehuda as dar b'chatzer shel hatachton shelo midato. Because
Shelo midaito means he did it without the owner of the bottom house giving him permission to live there.
The question is whether he has to get permission.
So that's the machlokas Rabbi Yehuda and the Tanakama. That's exactly the machlokas Rabbi Yehuda and the Tanakama.
I have a hard time understanding Rabbi Yehuda, basically.
Okay, Beseder, but Rabbi Yehuda says it. Rabbi Yehuda says this is a case of dar b'chatzer chavero shelo midaito because it's a perfect case of zen nana v'zel lo chaser. And you got to pay. Why you got to pay? You had an off. You had an off from me. It didn't cost me anything, but did you save money? Because if you wouldn't have lived in the house that you built for me on my property, if you wouldn't have built that house, would you have to go pay rent?
Yes.
Yes. So you were nene. That's exactly the machlokas Tanakama and Rabbi Yehuda. You know what? Tosas picks up on that, but he says the opposite. Really, the din is like Rabbi Yehuda. The only reason, look at the Tosas, it's a one-line Tosfos. I'll tell you what Tosas is bothered by. And there are Achronim who have it differently. They have a different problem. We may see the Pnei Yoshua or not, but look at Tosas Tashma, and we'll understand what's bothering Tosfos. It's tricky what's bothering Tosfos. Toshma, Rabbi Yehuda Omer, and it quotes Rabbi Yehuda's opinion that he has to pay. V'afilu rabbanon lo pligi. Wait a minute. It sounds like there's a machlok. Doesn't it sound like there's a machlokas tanaim here?
Yes.
So therefore, we really should say the question of zen nene v'zel lo chaser is a machlokas tanaim. The Tanakama holds zen nene v'zel lo chaser pater, and Rabbi Yehuda holds zen nene v'zel lo chaser chayiv. So what are you trying to do? You should have it's a machlokas tanaim. Says Tosas, it's not a machlokas tanaim about zen nene v'zel lo chaser. According to Tosas, everybody agrees with Rabbi Yehuda that zen nene v'zel lo chaser is chayiv. However, the reason the Chachamim say pater is what Daniel is arguing, mishum debesel aliyah mishtabe. It's only because that Shimon has rights in the bottom. That's why he doesn't have to pay rent. But fundamentally, says Tosfos, from Rabbi Yehuda's opinion, he argues on the significance of the shibud that the bottom guy has to the top guy, and therefore everybody fundamentally agrees zen nene v'zel lo chaser chayiv. That's the argument. Other Rishon Achrim don't learn like that, but Tosas wants to make it not a machlokas tanaim. And the Gemara's answer is, listen to this. This has very significant halachic ramifications. Shiny Hasam Mishum Shachrurisa de Ashyasa. Says Rashi, what does that mean? Says Rashi, you know what? I should have read another thing to see an explicit maklokas. Rashi Tosfos. Rabbi Yehuda Omer says Rashi, Atanakama Polig, de Bal Aliyah Tzarech Lalot Schar LeBal Abayit. I'm sorry, that's clear. That's the machlokas. Okay, we don't know whether, according to Rashi, what the Tanakama would say because of Tosas. Let's assume Tosas is correct, and the only machlokas is about the shibud. But what's Shachrurisa de Ashyasa? Shemashchir lo haketali. He's causing the walls to blacken a little bit. Hilka choseru. Aval bayit yoshan lo. Says Rashi, the reason the Gemara is giving is because we're talking about a brand new house. Well, a brand new house, you live in a brand new house for a month. Is the brand new house that you lived in for a month exactly the same as it was when you came in? So there's a chaser. If I live in your old house, I come into your old house and I pitch my sleeping bag on the wall, on the floor, and I'm there for a month. Nothing changed about your house. But if it would be a brand new house, as they say here in Israel, chadash b'nailonim, okay, right, that it's brand new, okay, then it has an effect. This is a very big chiddush, very important, because it's going to have halacha l'maisa. So it says here that any minor depreciation already turns it into a chaser. It transforms it from a low chaser to a yes chaser. Okay, and that's why somebody's talking and breaking up.
I think it was.
No,
I think it was Pinchas.
I just want to say I find that particularly problematic because the example that the Gemara is giving is really trivial. Because the fact that the walls are now going to have a little soot on them because of the candles, well, if the guy himself moved in after a month, he would also have a little soot from the candles. It's not going to. It's going to be there anyway.
That's exactly the point. You had hana'ah from that month, and during that month, my asset depreciated. Of course, if I would have lived there, it would have depreciated, but I didn't live there. You lived there. So the question is, can we call it a zenene v'zel lo chaser? Again, this is a very important halacha l'maisa, because we're dealing here with, remember, we're in the world of kofin al midas dom, zenene zelo chaser. The minute I say, let's, again, we've got to know back, what's our default? Is the default zenene v'zelo chaser chayav or zenene v'zelo chaser pater? Well, you had hana, so you got to pay. The fact that it didn't cost me anything, but you had hana. So the only reason why you shouldn't have to pay is because of midas dom. Is that zenene v'zelo chaser? But the minute there's cheser, the whole discussion of minas dom disappears. Okay, that's what the Gemara says now. This is going to have very significant ramifications of halacha l'maisa. But let's go on. Okay, can we go on? Next.
Right, what line are we on now?
Okay, so I am on Shalchua. Right, we finished the Darba Chatzar Chavero. I'm sorry, we finished the Bais La'aliyah, and now we're in Shalchua. Everybody see where I am? It's right across from the Tosas Taima. Shalchua Bei Rabbi Ami. So remember, at this point, what resolution do we have about the question? Zenen Zelo Chaser, Chayav or Pater?
Machlokas.
Nothing. Yeah.
It's either a machlokas, or Tosas wants to make it a non-machlokas. Tosas wants to say it's ambiguous, completely ambiguous. We can't tell. You could explain it one way. Every Tanaitic discussion could be explained in either direction. So it's completely ambiguous. Therefore, Shalchua Bei Rabbi Ami Omar lo v'chimayes. I'm sorry. Wait a minute. Shani Hasem Shalchua Bei Rabbi Ami Omar v'chima asalo ma chisro u'ma ziko. Says Rashi. Shalchua Bei Rabbi Ami lahabaya de le'el. We're not in this case anymore. We're in the original case. We're in the original case of Dar b'chatzar chavero shalomi daito. And we're saying it is a real case of zenene v'zel lo chaser. And what's Rabbi Ami's argument? V'chima asolo, ma chesro, ma iziko. What did Reuven, who lived in the backyard, what did he didn't damage anything. Why should he have to pay? Says Rashi, Shalchud be Rabbi Ami loha baya deleel zenen v'zelo chaser mahu. Ma chasro. Ze omad b'bayit delo kaimel agra. So why should he have to pay? What did I cost you? That was his argument. Okay? So he's arguing zenen v'zelo chaser should be pater. Rabbi Chia bar Abba Omar Nisyashe Bedavar. Got to think about it. Hadar Shalch. Okay, he says, I hear what you're saying. Got to think about it. Nisyashe Bedavar. Got to think about it. Hadar Shalchua Kamei de Rabbi Chia bar Abba. They didn't get an answer, so they sent the question again. Okay, again, this is the old days. You had to send a messenger. You had to send a letter. Okay. You can imagine now you send a guy a WhatsApp, here's the Shaila, and he doesn't answer you. So after 2 days, what do? You send another WhatsApp. Hey, I asked you the question. Why aren't you giving me an answer? That's basically what's going on here. Again, I want you to see that inside. Right? Shalchu be Rabbi Ami, and he said, V'chima asalo ma chasro ma yiziko. Why should a zenen of v'zelo chasro? Why should a dar b'chatzor? I'm sorry. Why should a dar b'chatzor chaver shalomi daito? When it's not Kamila Agra, why should he have to pay? So Rabbi Chia bar Abba Amar Nisyashe Bedavar. Got to think about it. Hadar Shalchua Kamei de Rabbi Chia bar Abba. They didn't get an answer, so they sent the question again. Okay, let's Rashi. You go to the Rashi a few lines before it gets wide. Nisyashe Bedavar Nayin ba. Okay, got to think about it. They didn't get an answer. Shalchua Kamei de Rabbi Abba bar Abba. And they sent it to him again. Omar kule hai sholchu li ve'azli. What, they keep sending me the same question? Ilu ashkeche bataima lo shalachna lu. But I didn't answer you. Why didn't I answer you? You think I didn't answer you because I don't care about you? I didn't answer you because I don't have an answer. If I would have had an answer, I would have sent it to you. So why are you nudging me again because I didn't answer you? I didn't answer you because I'm not sure. Okay? So, no, we're showing the sensitivity here of the question. Again, I want you to understand the dynamic of what just happened here. Okay? Rabbi Ami, or Bei Rabbi Ami, the base manager of Rabbi Ami, they're sending him, hey, what damage is it? Why should you have to pay? Got to think about it. He thought about, and he didn't answer them. They sent it again, hey, what's going on? And he said, why are you nudging me? If I would have had an answer, I would have sent you. I don't know. I can't resolve the question. So Itmar, Rav Kahana Amar Rabbi Yochanan Eino Tzarich La'alot L'Schar. Rabbi Abahu Amar Rabbi Yochanan Tzarich La'alot L'Schar. So we have a machlokas Amoraim, what Rabbi Yochanan held. A machlokas Amoraim, what Rabbi Yochanan held. Okay? Again, it's very important. We have a machlokas Amoraim, what did Rabbi Yochanan hold? Amar Rav Papa. How did Rabbi Abahu? Remember, what did Rabbi Abahu say? Rabbi Abahu said Rabbi Yochanan holds tzorich la'alot l'schar, and Rav Kahana said Rabbi Yochanan said tzorich la'alot eino tzorich la'alot l'schar. Says Rav Papa, how did Rabbi Abahu lav b'feirush itmar? Rabbi Abahu never heard explicitly that Rabbi Yochanan said hadar b'chatzor chaveiro tzorich la'alot l'schar. He never said that explicitly. Ella mislala itmar. Whenever you see that in the Gemara, you understand that they're going to challenge the accuracy of the presentation of one of the Amoraim. Meaning what they're saying is, you know what? Rav Papa never heard explicitly Rabbi Abahu declare, right? Tzorich la'alot l'schar. Never heard such a thing. What did he do? He heard a psak, and from that, he heard a failure of psak, and from that he imputed what he must hold. Let's see the story. Okay, Ditzanan. Here's the Mishnah. Not hal even o korashal hegdesh. So if a person takes and doesn't use, the point is he didn't use it. He took a beam or a stone of hegdesh. Are you allowed to do that? You're certainly not allowed to do that. But I didn't do anything with it. Harei lo mo'ah. There's no me'ilah if all you did is you took it and you didn't use it. Me'ilah is to use hegdesh. So he took it and he didn't use it, no me'ilah. Not no lechavero. Who mo'al v'chavero lo mo'al? Because when you took it, you didn't take it away from hegdesh unless you used it. But if you didn't take it away from Hekdesh, there's no Me'ila. But after I took it, and I have it, and it's still Hekdesh's, I then gave it over to Ruvain. Now that means I took it away from Hekdesh. I got it out of Hekdesh's Rishus, and therefore I'm the Moel. I was Moel. Bina letoch beso, harei zelo mo'al ad sheyoder tachteha shabapruta. If I took it from Hekdesh, and I didn't do anything with it, and I built it into my house, freeze frame, no Me'ila yet, until I live in the house. The Amar Shmuel, let's see if there's Rashi till there. Rashi till there. Lo beferish itmar. Lav behedya shama Rabbi Abahu mida Rabbi Yochanan. That what he claimed he said, that sarach lalot lo skar. But it was by implication. What was the scenario? So there's a scenario of a Mishnah, Natal Evan Okoram in the Rashi, Mefarish b'Meseches Me'ila de begizbar askinan. We're not talking about you, because if you took it, you are Moel by taking it. We're talking about the Gizbar. The Gizbar is allowed to walk around with the Hekdesh stuff, because the Gizbar is the Yad of the Hekdesh, and he never took it away from Hekdesh by having it. Okay, so Lo Moab. Why? The Meikara Nami B'Rishus Havi. It's still in the Rishus of Hekdesh when the Gizbar holds it. Ki Hashta V'lo Shinuya Hu. The Gizbar, when he picks it up, he didn't make any Shinui because the Gizbar is still an extension of Hekdesh. But Nosno Lechavero, if the Gizbar takes the stone and he hands it to somebody else, so then Kanya Chavero. Now the Chaver made a kinyan in it. The Gizbar yesh lo reshus litein. The Gizbar is in charge of it, and zeh hotzi l'chulin ma. So therefore, the Gizbar, right, who gave it away, made it. 1 second, just a minute. Yeah, the Gizbar gave it away, and therefore the Gizbar is the Moel because he gave it away, and the Chaver was not Moel. But Bina'ah Gizbar. Now we go back to the case where the Gizbar took it. And when the Gizbar has it, there's no Me'ila. And Bina'ah, I'm in Rashi. Bina'ah Gizbar b'toch beso, lo mo'ah, until he lives in it. Because when he built it in the house, he didn't yet take it away, and he had no hana'ah from it. Says the Gemara, continues the Gemara. Bina'ah b'toch beso reza lo mo'al, ad sheyoder tachtea shavapruta. You got to live in it enough that the living that you did, i.e. the rent, so to speak, was worth a pruta. The Omar Shmuel, v'hu shehinicha al pi aruba, only if you put it on the chimney, meaning if you put it into your house, if you built it into the house, what's the difference between putting it on the chimney and putting it in and building it as part of your wall? Says Rashi, hu shehinicha al pi aruba v'lo kava b'binya. The lohavi shinui, putting it on top of the chimney, that's nothing because you put it on the chimney, you take it off of the chimney, as opposed to building it in the house, then it's a shinui. Hilkach lo mo'al ad sheyoder tachtea. All right, so here it is. So the Gizbar takes it and he's holding it, he's walking around with it. No Me'ila. If he would build it in the house, that's it, it's finished. That's Me'ila. He changed it. He took it away from Hekdesh. But if he's holding it and he puts it on top of the chimney, well, he put it on the top of the chimney, it's back and forth. He didn't really do anything yet. But now I have a stone keeping the cold wind out of my chimney, and I go and I live in the house. So now I had hana'ah from the fact that I put a Hekdesh stone on the chimney to keep the cold wind out. Okay? That is what Shmuel said.
What's the difference between when he gave it to the friend and the friend didn't live in it yet, and it's Me'ila?
The minute the Gizbar gave it to the friend, the Gizbar took it out of Rishus Hekdesh. That's Me'ila of the Gizbar.
Even though there's no Hana yet, that counts.
Hana is only when you didn't take it away. You need Hana if you didn't take it away.
Once there's a Shinui, that's it. That's Me'ila.
Yes. Once you give it away, that's Me'ila. Once you change it, that's Me'ila. But if you didn't change it, you need to have Hana for it to be Me'ila.
Oh, that's okay. Thank you.
All right. So hu sheinicha al pi aruba. Okay, that's what Shmuel said. The Yosef Rabbi Abahu kamei de Rabbi Yochanan. The Ka'amar mishmei de Shmuel. Rabbi Abahu said this din over in the name of Shmuel, that you're only moel if you lived underneath the chimney for a shava pruta. So what did Rabbi Abahu say? Zot omeret. Oh, I see for what Shmuel said. Hadar b'chatzer chavero shalom midaito, because the hekdesh didn't give him permission, but yet he's living underneath the hekdesh, having hana'ah from the hekdesh. So it's a zenene. The hekdesh, the guy is living and having hana'ah from the fact that the wind isn't coming in through his chimney. V'zel lo chaser. It's lo midaito, right? The hekdesh didn't know about it, didn't get permission. So I see that hadar b'chatzer chaver shalom midaito tzorech la'alot lo schar. So I see that, well, if hadar b'chatzer chaver shalom midaito means I lived underneath the in the house with the chimney protecting me with no permission. So if I don't owe any money for that, then there's no hana pruta. The fact that you say that I lived there worth a pruta shows that hadar b'chatzer chaver shalom midaito. What's my status? I owe or I don't owe?
He owes.
I owe or I don't owe?
He owes.
I have to owe because you just told me that if I live there shava pruta, then I'm moel. But if I'm never chayiv when I did it zenen v'zel lo chaser shalom midaito, I was lo midaito shel hekdesh. It was lo midaito. I didn't get permission from hekdesh. All right, and I did it without permission. Just like I moved into your house and I pitched my sleeping bag on your floor. I didn't do it with permission, but did I have hana? Yeah. Do I have to pay? Well, I see here that you must have to pay. Because if you don't have to pay, then when I lived in the house where the stone of the chimney was protecting me from the cold, I was nene, but it was lo midaito because I never had permission. I did it without permission. So that's what Rabbi Abahu said in front of Rabbi Yochanan. And Shosak le. And Rabbi Yochanan didn't respond. So normally, when a Talmud says a chiddush, zot omeret, a chiddush, and Rabbi Yochanan didn't say, "What are you talking about? That's ridiculous." Rabbi Yochanan didn't say that. What did he do? Nothing. He didn't say anything. So the assumption is, he must have liked my chiddush, because if he didn't like my chiddush, he would have right away challenged my chiddush. So Rabbi Abahu assumed that Rabbi Yochanan, who heard my chiddush, didn't say I'm wrong, so he must think I'm right. And therefore, he reported that Rabbi Yochanan holds hadar b'chatzer chaver shalom midaito tzorech la'alot lo schar. Everybody see how that plays out. And the where's it here?
The last line.
But Rav Papa, who said Rabbi Abahu didn't never heard that from Yochanan. He heard it michlala. So Rav Papa comes in and says Rabbi Yochanan never meant that he agrees with Rabbi Abahu. It's exactly the opposite, right? Velohi. I'm sorry. I'm sorry.
Yeah.
Midashosik modele velohi ashguche lo ashgach be. He didn't respond because it's ridiculous. I don't need to respond to such nonsense. Kidarabba. Why was that nonsense? Kidarabba. The Amar Rabba hekdesh shalom midas kehedjot midas. I'll read Rashi. I'll learn Rashi. A little bit of a closer Rashi Tosos, but basically what we're saying mathematically is there's no such animal as dar b'chotzer chaveiro shalom midaito when the chotzer is when it's hekdesh, because hekdesh is always midaito. There's no such thing as lo midaito with hekdesh. And therefore, you can't tell me, you can't impute from the fact that he's chayiv for rent about anything that has to do with Darmi Chatzer Chaver Shalom Midaito, because this is a Darmi Chatzer Chavero Midaito. Okay, it says Rashi. Zot Omeret, I'm in the last line. This was Rabbi Abahu assuming what Shmuel must have meant, Shmuel must hold. Zot Omeret, Midiketani, Dechidar, Tachtei, Chayiv, Afagav de Lo Midai, Jishalo Midat Hegdish Aved. and therefore it must be a raya that hadar b'chatzer chavero shalomi daito tzarich la'alot lo schar. And it says no. He didn't answer because what he said is so off the wall. He doesn't need an answer. Hektish leka lamemer shalomi das. There's no such animal as hektish shalomi das. Why? The das shchina ika hilkach gehedyot midas dami. Hakadosh Baruch Hu always knows. I can move into your house when you're not home and you don't know about it. Okay? But when I live in something that belongs to Hekdesh, God knows. And therefore I did it with Das. I did it with Das. It's not Shalomi Das, it's with Das. Okay? And therefore I did it with Das. Okay? And therefore I have to pay. All right? It's like me, according to this Rashi. All right? If I move into your house when you're there, and the fact that I didn't kick you out doesn't mean that I'm allowing you to do it for rent free because you're a gavra that rents, and therefore I'm expecting pay. That's how Rashi understands it. Tosfos has a problem with it. Okay, let's see the Tosfos on the top of Chaf Aleph Amud Aleph. I think Tosfos' pshat is a little better. I mean, it's a little more compelling because Rashi's a little bit ambiguous. What God knows about it, but the issue isn't whether he knows about it. It's issue whether you have permission or not. Didn't we always understand Hadar b'chatzer chaver shalomi daito means without permission? You did it without permission. Well, so what do you? I mean, the fact that Hegdish knows that doesn't mean you have permission. Says Tosfos, Kedya dami pirush hakuntras didas shchina ika. God knows the kasha. The shalomi daito lav dafka. When we say lomi daito, you didn't know about it. That doesn't mean you didn't know about it. What it means is Ella or Chadamilsa knockout that the person did it because the guy didn't know about it. But who did me daito? If he would know about it, right? If you did it without permission, it's not a question of knowledge. It's a question of permission. I moved into your house and you know about it, but you didn't give me permission. Says Tosfos, that's what it means, Shalomi Daito. Shalomi Daito doesn't mean you didn't know about it. It's the euphemism for doing it without permission. So therefore, how do we understand this pshat here? Elinira kehedyot midas dami kalomar das shchina ika shalo yehena adam shalom belomi ima. That there's always always an opinion of shchina. You cannot live here without paying rent. That's why we have a system of meila. So according to this Tosfos, we could have a situation where we're going to negotiate. Is the guy indicating that he cares or he doesn't care? In other words, I moved in to your. I pitched my sleeping bag in your backyard, and you knew I'm there, and you didn't say anything. So is that called shalomi das? Says Tosfos, that's called shalomi das because you didn't agree. You didn't. I'm sorry, because you didn't. I'm sorry. The opposite. Tosfos says that if you tell me in advance, and here's where we're going to get it. You tell me in advance, I don't let you live there. I don't let you live there. This is going to be a halacha l'maisa. I said you can't pitch. I hear you're getting ready to put your sleeping bag in my backyard. I don't let you. And then I go on vacation. Now remember, my backyard is not a place that I ever rent. But I tell you, I don't let you do it. And then I go on vacation, and you do it. Are you nene? Am I chaser?
Sure. The one who did it is nene, and the one who went on vacation is chaser.
Why am I chaser? How am I chaser?
Because you didn't allow anybody to do it, so therefore you were.
I said you can't do it. Where's my cheser?
Your cheser is in the sense that your privacy was violated.
That as we used to say, that in a Metro card gets you on the subway.
Well, if the guy who slept in the chatzer doesn't normally pay rent.
No, we're talking where he pays rent. I need it to be a zenene, of course. I need it to be a zenene. So says Tosfos.
But the question is, what's the chisaron?
Says Tosfos, when it says hadar b'chatzer chavero shalomi daito, okay, it doesn't necessarily mean whether he knows or he doesn't know. It means that the guy doesn't care. If I am living in your backyard and you don't care, then I don't have to pay. Then that's the question. But if you care, how do I know whether you care? You say, don't do it. That's what Tosas is saying here. This is going to be a big machlokas rishonim. But Tosas says that Hektish is always telling you can't do it without rent. You can't do it without rent. Meaning even you know about it. Elanira kehedyot midas. What does that mean? It's kehedyot midas. The das shchina ika shelo yehene adam below meila. They're announcing you can't live there unless you pay. So again, what happens if I didn't tell you can't live there if you don't pay? All I said is I don't let you do it. But I didn't say if you do it, you got to pay. That's going to be the issue here. When I say I don't let you do it, and then I go on vacation, there's a difference whether I said I don't want you doing it, and I go on vacation, or I say I don't want you doing it, and even though normally I don't charge rent, if you do it, you got to pay me $100. According to Tosas, it sounds like in order for me to be able to collect in a world of zen nenev v'zel lo chaser, because of zen nenev v'zel lo chaser, it's got to be that I told you that to make you pay rent, I got to tell you if you do it, you got to pay rent. If all I do is I say I don't let you, and then you did it anyway, sounds from Tosas like I can't collect because at the end of the day I'm a lo chaser. And this is going to be a big issue in the halacha l'maisa. You guys hear that? I hope you hear the issue here. All right?
Yeah.
I said don't do it. Okay. I told you don't do it, and you did it. What was I chaser? I wasn't chaser anything. So
Even
wait a
in the
minute.
other scenario, you're not chaser.
Which one? Which case?
The one where you say to him, I don't want you to do it, and if you do it, you got to pay.
Bingo. Doug is asking exactly the question we need to ask. But from Tosas, it's very clear. Okay, although somebody could argue like Doug. At the end of the day, we have something that I normally rent or I don't rent.
You normally don't rent it.
I don't rent. And therefore, when you live there, how much did it cost me?
Or a zero.
Nothing. So I'm a low cost. I'm a low cost. So how, asks Doug, does the fact that I announce that you can't do it and I don't rent it, but if you live there, you got to pay me $100? That's what Tosas says. And we got to know why. So first of all, there's some Rishonim that say, no, that's not good enough. Okay? But the simple understanding is it is. You know why? Because if I say I don't let you live there, and if you live there, you got to pay me $100, I just turned it into a kaimel agra. You like that, right? I see that Daniel and Daniel and Pinchas are nodding their heads quickly, right? By saying if you do it, you got to pay me $100. I just turned it into a kaimel agra, at least for you.
Yeah, for sure.
Okay,
absolutely.
So that seems to be what Tosas is going to hold. That's how we're going to explain the Tosas, and that seems to be the simple shot. So therefore, what's going to happen? I'm going on vacation, and I put up a big sign: no trespassing. No one's allowed in my house. Okay, and somebody goes and pitches a tent in my backyard. It seems from Tosas that you will not have to pay. But if I put up a sign that says no trespassing and anybody who trespasses has to pay me $100 a night, then you will have to pay. Even if it's low kaimel agra, because that sign turns it into a kaimel agra. Okay?
Rabbi Karlinsky, can I just ask a question regarding the Shakavitar in the Gemara here? And Lola Gufo Shonyan, but I don't understand. We have two Amoraim. One is Reb Kahan and one is Reb Avau. Both of them have a disagreement as to what Rabbi Yochanan said. One of them says, I have an Or Masor, what he said. The other guy says, I don't have an Or Masor, but I can, with my thumb, I can tell you what he thought. Why were we even listening to the second guy? He doesn't have an Or Masor. He's trying to make a conclusion.
I got bad news for you. That's exactly what Reb Papa is saying. Don't pay attention to this one because he never heard him say it explicitly. He just imputed from his silence that he must agree with him, and I'm giving you no. He missed the boat. That's exactly what Reb Papa is saying. That's exactly what Reb Papa is saying. Okay, that we don't have two opinions. No, we know what Rabbi Yochanan held. We know what Rabbi Yochanan had, because one had explicitly what Rabbi Yochanan said, and therefore there's no reason to think that Rabbi Yochanan's silence should be interpreted at odds with what the other Amora heard explicitly, but we have a way to understand it without making it a contradiction. Okay? All right, so, let's go quickly a little bit. I got a chasna, but we'll go till 7. Okay. Shalach lei Rabbi. Okay, so basically we're at a standoff. We're definitely at a standoff. Shalach le Rabbi. Except we know we know what Rabbi Yochanan held. We know that Rabbi Yochanan holds, right? We know what Rabbi Yochanan holds. Okay, we're going to assume now. We know we're going to assume that Rabbi Yochanan holds, right? That ain't tzarich la'alat lo schar. Ain't tzarich la'alat lo schar. That's what we're assuming Rabbi Yochanan holds. Shalach le Rabbi Abba bar Zabda le Mary bar Mar boy minei Rav Huna. Meaning, he said, you know what? Go to Rav Huna. Rav Huna is a posek hadar. Go ask him what to do. Okay. Before he got to him, Rav Huna died. Rav Huna died. Amar le Rabba bar Rav Huna. So Rabba bar Rav Huna is telling me, Hachi Amar Rabba. Hacha Amar Abba. Abba Mari Mishmei Derav. So the son of Rav Huna is telling you what Rav Huna said over in the name of Rav. Einot tzarich lahalos lo schar. But we're not finished. The hasocher bayit mi Ruvain ma'al schar l'shimon. That's what he said over in his name of his father. Okay? That hadar b'chatzer chavero shalom idaito ein tzarich lahalot lo schar. But socher bayit mi Ruvain ma'al schar l'shimon. That rents from Reuven, he's got to pay Shimon. I hope everybody understands what the Gemara is about to ask. Shimon Mayavidite. What's Shimon doing here? He rents the house from Reuven. Okay? He rented the house from Reuven. He's got to pay Shimon. What's going on here? And what does this have to do with anything about Dar B'Chatzer Chaver Shalom Idaito? Hachika Omar. Here's what he meant. He was Socher Bayit Mi Reuven. V'nimtza habayit shel Shimon. Okay, here it gets very tricky, and I'm going to leave it at this because we have to come back to this. So the guy rents from Reuven. Reuven comes to the guy and says, "Oh, I hear you're looking for a house. Okay, I hear you're looking for a house. I got a great house. I got a great apartment for you. Okay, I got a great apartment for you on 11 Brand. 11 Brand. I got a great apartment for you, 11 Brand. Daniel's on vacation, and I go and I hear somebody's looking for an apartment." Okay, Daniel's on vacation, and I take the guy in and I say, I got a great apartment for you, and this is the apartment. I show him Daniel's apartment. We agree on $1,000 rent, okay, and we make a case he's going to rent this apartment. All right, and it turns out that it wasn't my apartment, it was Daniel's apartment. Nimsa bayit shel Shimon malelo schar. You got to pay Shimon. You got to pay Daniel rent. Tarti, that's a contradiction. Why? Because the renter. I showed the renter Daniel's apartment, and he moved in. Okay, was he a dar b'chatzer chaver shalom idaito? He lived in Daniel's apartment, shalom idas Daniel. And what did we just get through saying? What was the first din that he said? Amar Abba Mary Mishmei Derav Eino tzarich la'alat lo schar. So I'm going to leave you with this contradiction. The din is adar b'chatzer chaver shalom idaito ain't tzarich la'alat lo schar. And when I brought somebody into Daniel's apartment, where he lived in Daniel's apartment, shalom idaito of Daniel, he's got to pay rent to Daniel. I understand. He was adar b'chatzer chaver shalom idaito. So why does he have to pay rent to Daniel? And we'll leave it at that and pick it up on Sunday. Okay? The Seder.
Thank you.
Okay, good. Kol tuv.